Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about migration, otherwise known as gene flow. So let's begin. Gene flow is the movement of alleles into or out of a population. If alleles are moving into a population, it is known as immigration. If it's moving out of a population, it is known as emigration. And so gene flow is when organisms, more importantly, their alleles, move into a population, contribute to the genetic diversity or gene pool of that population, or when organisms move out of a population. Now, many times what can happen is there can be habitat fragmentation, and that is where humans have built structures such as roads, buildings, fences, walls, anything that's going to create a dividing line between two populations and restrict gene flow. And if left long enough, this could be disastrous for the organisms. Now, with this habitat fragmentation, that creates smaller populations that are more susceptible to inbreeding and genetic disorders. And so there are ways that we can mitigate, or we could help reduce the reduction of gene flow. And the most common way that this is done are these wildlife corridors. Now, there are cases where if gene flow is reduced for a long period of time, it's going to eventually lead to reproductive isolation. Ultimately, reproductive isolation is going to eventually lead to the formation of new species. So let's just dive a little bit into speciation, or the creation of new species. There's two main ways that this can happen. The first is what's referred to as allopatric speciation. Allopatric speciation arises because two populations have become reproductively isolated thanks to a physical barrier. The second type of speciation that's going to occur is called sympatric speciation. And in the case of sympatric speciation, it's still reproductive isolation, but it is no longer due to a physical barrier. So let's think of some examples of both of these. A great example of allopatric speciation would be an Indian and an African elephant. Now, both are elephants, but they are reproductively isolated. In other words, there is a giant continent in between them and some oceans and bodies of water in between them. So they're separated by a physical barrier, and they were separated long enough that they are no longer capable of reproducing viable or even fertile offspring. So they have become reproductively isolated long enough due to that physical barrier to become their own distinct species. An example of sympatric speciation would be, let's say you have a field, and in this field live various types of flies. Well, some of those flies, even though they're living close together with other populations, may be active in the daytime while others are active only at night. Another example would be like fireflies, where some organisms prefer a special blinking pattern, like blink, 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 while other fireflies may prefer blink, 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 blink. And so even though there's no physical separation between the populations, they are nevertheless reproductively isolated because of some type of behavioral barrier instead of a physical barrier. So we're going to be talking a little bit more into allopatric and sympatric speciation when we dive into reproductive isolation in the next topic. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye.